Hey, you've made it to Spry Space, where people managing social media accounts come for community. This year, our focus is social media for good. Together, we can work to make social media a landscape for healthy online communities to grow. Sound good? Then come along with us on the Spry Space podcast, where we share what we know, learn what we don't, and strive to make social media better for us all.
$6 hats, impervious to the snow. Not sure when I fell, but now we're in love, and it feels sublime.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spry Space podcast. I'm Lacey, and today Chad and I are joined by another amazing musician, Ms. Datri Bean. Datri is a composer, singer, musician, and instigator of all the fun things. She sings, plays piano, ukulele, accordion, and cornet. I didn't even know cornet was a thing. From Austin, Texas, Datri calls her music Southern Fried Jazz, which I'm totally into. Original songs for a lazy afternoon on the porch. Datri is in Megan Mullally's band, Nancy and Beth, and composed and led the 25-piece Minor Mishap marching band. I can't wait to hear more about that. Datri, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you medium? Are you low? Are you high? Where are you at today?
I think I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
Yeah.
I like to hear that.
I'm in a pretty good mood this week.
Zero
I've been
to
in a pretty
10.
good mood and
0 is you're having the worst time ever. 10 is the best.
We're still in a pandemic, so 10 is like a hard call, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I've adjusted my whole scale to I've lowered my expectations so that I can reach my goals of feeling good. How's that?
I'm not sure I've been above a 7 in 18 months, you know?
Yeah,
like
indeed.
I don't
Indeed. But yeah,
So-
I feel fine.
So give me the background between you two here for a minute.
Okay, well, it's very neat. I've known Datri for quite a while. I moved to Seattle in about the year 2000, and I met Datri, I think, through our mutual friends David Dressel and Willow.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
And David played bass in my band, and I ran a recording studio with David. Just a super great friend of mine. I'd miss him so much. And but the best thing was that we were all musicians and songwriters, and it was such a neat time where we were all trying to give it our all, try to be professional musicians, you know, make a living out of it, and put everything we had into our art. And of course, I was in my mid-20s, so I was like, woohoo, this is the best thing ever. And I had a blast doing anything.
Was he like that, Datri?
He was. We were all very enthusiastic.
Yeah. I remember doing songwriting, especially with songwriting. We all were just like, hey, there's this thing, songwriting, and it's a craft, and you can get better at it, and you can work hard. And I remember a songwriter in the round parties at Datri's house, and it was just where we would just go around, and each person, you know, play and sing a song that we wrote. Or one of my favorite parts was we'd have an improv thing where we're all playing the same song, and we go around in the circle, and each person would take a verse, you know, and just improvise and make it up on the spot. And oh man, I had a blast during those times.
Well, so nice to be able to have a little reunion here. This makes me so happy to be a part of.
Yeah, it's great.
So, Datri, I always like to start with a question about social media. Our focus at Spry is this concept of social media for good. And so, what good is social media if it can't spark some joy in our life? So tell me about a piece of social media content that you saw recently that brought you joy.
It's funny because I think there are probably quite a few things that I could answer with, you know, like there's this awesome series of photos of a dog in a turtleneck that are really cute, or I saw some young woman had just gotten into optometry school, and she like filmed her parents reading the letter, and her parents are just like overjoyed, excited for her, and her dad's the cutest. but honestly, the thing that really came to mind very first when you said that was a couple of the epidemiologists that I follow, and like getting really good information from them, which I realize might be incredibly risky because you can also get disinformation on social media. So you have to really filter out who you're following. But yeah, news came out, I think it was yesterday, that the Indian variant, like Covovax, which is AstraZeneca but manufactured in India, is like working on the Indian variant. And Moderna works and Pfizer works. And so that was honestly the thing that brought me the most joy, was like, oh, thank God, like the vaccines are still working.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. There are so many kind of light, little, joyful, happy things that can spark that joy, but social media as a means of really getting good information, I mean, that is overlooked a lot because of the fact that there is a sense of disinformation that happens a lot. But as long as, just like you said, as long as you're doing a little research on who you're following and you're confident in those sources, it's an unbelievable place to learn and be in touch with current events and things that are going on. So,
Datri, did you say that I think I remember you lived in India for a number of months, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been to India 3 times. I spent about 8 months there, but it was a really long time ago. But yeah.
I would love to
go definitely
someday.
Have watched that situation, because it's a very hard place to control something like a virus.
Mm-hmm. With that population density.
Yeah, they're just so crowded together. It's going to be a real challenge. But they're also a kind of an amazing, they have a lot of medical science and technology there, and a ton of super smart people. And I think they're going to figure it out. It's just going to take a minute.
Well, I want to turn our attention towards music for a minute. Okay. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, your individual passion for music, songwriting, performing. How'd you get into this? When? And what do you love about it?
Well, songwriting is my most favorite aspect of music. I do a number of things. I write and compose. I play, of course. I play in other people's bands, like Megan's band. I lead a big brass band, but the songwriting is really, is like the thing that's closest to my heart. And I think it's also because I think it's the hardest thing to do. I tried since I was a little kid to write songs. Our neighbors, when I was 5, moved to Australia. They gave us the piano. It just got moved across the street, and that's why I play piano, basically. Like in the most basic way. It's just somebody gave my family one, and I was like, oh, cool. And I remember immediately trying to figure out how to write songs. And it took me decades to write things that I liked. And I feel like I really got to where I liked what I wrote really shortly before I met Chad, actually. Living in Seattle. So I live in Austin now, and I lived in Austin before I lived in Seattle as well. And I didn't have as much community in Seattle, and I spent a bunch of time. I remember like living on Alki Beach, like alone, which is a beautiful place to live alone. But it resulted in a bunch of composing because I couldn't just always be out, which was actually a blessing. It was great. So, yeah.
I love when you're talking about it, just seeing your hand on your heart like that. It's not something people do intentionally, but when we talk about things that we love, it's like we can't kind of help but feel the energy coming from that space. That was beautiful. Now, we're over a year into pandemic, okay? And so things have been cuckoo bananas on so many fronts, but there is one thing that was kind of interesting that you were able to do during pandemic with Minor Mishap Marching Band. So can you just give me, first of all, a brief overview on what the heck that exactly is for those of us who aren't in the music world all the time, and then tell me about the project that you were able to do during pandemic.
Yeah, so Minor Mishap Marching Band is a brass band that I started here in Austin, Texas. Actually, it was shortly after I moved back from Seattle, and I moved here, and I had worked so hard in Seattle, and I came here and I couldn't even get a gig because no one knew who I was, and it was super frustrating. And I was like, fine, I'm going to do something just totally different. And I ended up starting this It's generally about 25 pieces. And we call it like a renegade brass band or something. And initially I thought that we would play other people's music, but of course, loving songwriting, I immediately composed for it. And now I write at least 90% of what we play. And and it's been around for like 11 or 12 years now. So that's been this other huge aspect of my life. Is this big and one of the main focuses of Minor Mishap is to build community. That's an intention behind it. It's a bit different than when you start a band to be a professional musician and make a living at it. For one thing, you don't want to split money 25 ways if you're trying to make a living at something. So it was started with a really different intent, and an intent of building community. And I think it's been amazing at that. It's been quite a journey, but I'm super close to everybody in the band, and we're kind of like a big family, and we go to New Orleans every year. In 2020, amazingly, we went 3 weeks before Mardi Gras instead of Mardi Gras weekend, because of course Mardi Gras ended up being a super spreader. So the last thing we did was go to New Orleans with each other and like play in this parade, just right before everything changed. That long intro about community is relevant because with Minor Mishap, I started going to a brass band festival in Boston, and then in Seattle, and then in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which is called Honk. And we have one here that some trombone players in my band started. That is, about building community. And it's a big free festival that the community of Austin participates in, and bands fly in from all over the country and sometimes all over the world. So the thing that we did after the pandemic hit, there's way too much background information here. There's a song we play called Tracksuit.
Okay.
It's one of the first things, it's one of the first compositions that we had. There's a handful of writers on it. I'm not the only one. Huge parts of that song were made by other people in my band. And it kind of became an anthem, or like a common song in this international brass band community, which includes people in Brazil, and people in Italy play it, and people in Chicago play it, and people in Boston play it. And so when these festivals happen, we play this song that originated with our band. So when the pandemic hit, one of the projects that I started is called Worldwide Tracksuit. Ooh. So we set out to make a new recording of the song Tracksuit, and invited all the people all over the world who know the song to play it with us. And actually, I even sent out music in case you didn't know the song. But and so we had friends in Brazil recording it, and we had friends in especially all over the U.S. recording it. And ultimately, I had like 70 tracks to mix down. So it's this massive thing. There's like 9 sousaphones on, and people in New Orleans, there's just stacks and stacks of instruments. It was a real mixing challenge, but it was awesome to give us all something to do, and something to work on together. And then just recently, we finally finished a video that's also collaborative. When we premiered that song, we even had an audience member and dancer from Kazakhstan come in. I had posted something to one of the Facebook honk musician groups, and she had seen it. And I think it was like 4 a.m. there, something like that. But she got up and did it. And after our program, she said, "Hi, I live in Kazakhstan, and I'm trying to start a brass band here." And it was so fun to tune into this. So it's kind of cool. It's like the pandemic, I think, really made us, the community already existed, but the pandemic made us engage with each other like over distance, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me goosebumps, arms and legs, thinking about that connection piece. We, as a group of social media managers in our company, we preach community, 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 community. That's the whole point. We don't want to work with anybody who's like, bring me X number of leads from this. We're like, oh, that's so cute. Like, but you can do that somewhere else. Like, we would like to help you build relationships with people where you actually are having a conversation with people. And so seeing what the pandemic actually forced out, it's almost like the pressure created something new and beautiful, you know, that you wouldn't have done otherwise. Where can people find that song and that video if they want to see that?
We have just put it up on YouTube within the last couple days on the Minor Mishap channel, and I can certainly send you a link so that you can have it, but I don't have a super clean link to give you.
That's fine.
I will put it on our website, which is minormishap.com.
Okay, perfect. How was that feeling when you had all those tracks and you were working on mixing them down and you could, like, I don't know, can you feel like the passion from so many different people coming through, and then how special and I almost want to call it sacred, you know, kind of like having that responsibility of taking these passionate works of art from so many people around the world and bringing it down into one beautiful piece of art together. Did you feel that? What did that feel like?
Yeah, it felt amazing. I just remember like looking at how many drum tracks I had and just setting aside a few days just to mix the drums and like not even importing anything else. Because obviously if the drums are messy, then it's just a wall of sound. Mm-hmm. It was very cool. It was very cool to just bring it all together, and and it's cool. And actually it's funny because that is now getting remixed. I was contacted by like a Danish hip hop artist who knows about the song Tracksuit. The song was in Fargo a few seasons ago, so it pops up, like people find out about it and it pops up in weird places all the time. And he had heard it, I think, I'm assuming on Fargo because we're not famous and no one knows who we are. And he wants to make like a hip hop song with it. So I sent him a bunch of stems just
fun
2 weeks ago. So yeah, the internet's cool, man.
I know it can. It certainly can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you're also part of Megan Mullally's band. So touring around with them, tell us about that experience for a little bit. What's it like going around with Nancy and Beth?
It is wonderful. I love being in Nancy and Beth. The band's been mostly the same people for the whole 8 years. So we're all really close and know each other really well. And it's typically in a normal year, we would spend like 2 to 3 months of the year on the road. In 2019, we had just an absolutely amazing year, which felt like so much travel at the time, but in retrospect, I'm so grateful for. Mm-hmm. We did like a 3-week or 1 month residency in New York City, and then we toured in Australia. Megan lets me play really nice venues that I probably wouldn't get to play on my own. So we got to play 2 shows at the Sydney Opera House. And,
wow.
You know, just do amazing things that I dreamed of doing as a child. And it's awesome. It's great. It's really cool. And I play piano in that band and I sing background vocals. So yeah, it's fun.
I'm finding we're doing for the whole month of June, we're focusing on musicians, almost like a kind of concert in the park series. And what I'm finding as I'm interviewing more and more of you all is that there's usually a lot of different projects happening at one time. Is that true? Or
yes.
You can't, there's no way to kind of focus in on one thing. You've got to kind of have your hand in lots of different things to feel fulfilled.
I think it does help. Yeah. Like in Nancy and Beth, Megan Mullally is absolutely the artistic director. Like she is the vision and she's brilliant and she comes up with such cool things. Like she chooses weird songs that I'm like, what is this going to sound like? And then we do it and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And she does this choreography and all this stuff. So it's really fun to just trust someone else's creative process and be there to support it. But I'm a composer, so obviously I also want my own, in Minor Mishap, I have almost the opposite role, which is I'm providing a bunch of that artistic vision and leadership and making a bunch of decisions. So it's really cool, I think, to do both. And then also Minor Mishap is rowdy. Our last record was a funk record. And then the new Datri Bean album, which isn't out yet, but it will be shortly. Well, theoretically will be shortly. Is like super mellow and piano and like bowed upright bass and stuff. So yeah, I need to do a lot of things for my own creative fulfillment. I think most people do. I mean, I could focus in on one thing if I wanted to. I just have chosen not to. I think
those are three super great examples. I mean, I can say honestly, Datri, I've shown your music to over 250 people, and
wow, thanks, man.
Yeah, I've never run into anyone who doesn't like it. Like it's just that cohesive or aligned with something that a lot of people can get to, a place that people can get to. It's not like a smaller genre that some people like, and there are some people like when they're feeling this way or something like that, but the Datri Bean music is just like you can put it on any time and get the very same vibe, which is usually, positive and even humorous. Datri had a song about that halfway through it, you think she's talking about her boyfriend, but she's actually talking about her cats, because she's saying this and this and this, and then you lick your butt. And everybody in the crowd is just like, what? Oh, they finally catch up, and it's humorous. And so yeah, I think it's really neat to see the different styles of music that you are putting into the other groups too.
And
Thanks so much.
I bet it's even nice to, just like you said, to be able to play different roles. It makes you appreciate the experience in a more holistic way. If you're creative directing here, but somebody else is there, there's so much less judgment about other people's roles and how they're doing it if you play many different roles in many different projects too.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
All right, so I want to bring it around to social media for a second here and ask, as an artist and a musician, has social media enabled you to have a greater connection with your audience, followers, fans? Has social media had that impact on you as an artist and musician?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, really in so many ways, like what did we do before?
Right?
That
fan letters?
I know that sounds silly. I don't mean to imply that I'm on social media all the time, but like if I think about especially the history of, say, Minor Mishap, which of course having 25 members means that it's also just connected to a lot of people. Like every time we do a show, there are a ton of photos pop up and videos pop up that I never have to arrange someone to take, even, and weird things. Or we've done, the first time we did the Winter Solstice Lantern Parade, which is kind of one of our signature events, I just had this idea, like, oh, what if people made lanterns and then we hung out on the solstice? Like, it was not even a very well developed, it wasn't very well developed. I made a Facebook invitation, and this was back when before Facebook didn't show everyone all the stuff you do.
Back when the algorithm served your content chronologically.
Really, really well for us. It worked really, really, really well for us back then because all of our fans saw everything we posted. And I just kind of was like, hey, like, get your kids to make a lantern and meet us in this park at 5 p.m. and then we'll do a parade. And about 800 people showed up.
Oh my God.
That was literally all I had done.
Wow.
We didn't have some big organized thing. Then all of a sudden there are all these people. It was a little overwhelming, but it was beautiful. And even Austin has a big lake in the middle, and crossing that bridge, like when we reached the other side, the back of the audience hadn't gotten on the bridge yet. Like, it was really big. Stuff like that is pretty powerful. Like, it's pretty cool. And then I think I joined social media because I'm a musician. I didn't join social media and then decide to add a music account. And I do interact in ways that don't relate directly to music. through my accounts, obviously. But I have plenty of friends on Facebook that I don't really know who they are. I don't totally know who they are, but I know that they're a fan, that they have. In fact, I don't even want to say fan because that sounds somehow like unequal. Like, they have been at something.
They're part of your community.
They are part of my community. We have done something together, whether they've heard a Datri Bean concert or whether they've, seen Minor Mishap in canoes on the lake. Like, they have been at something and they decided to reach out to me on social media, and and it's cool.
It's that interactiveness that's the magic of it, I think. Yeah, both Datri and I remember when when you wanted to get people to come to the shows, you had a mailing list. And sometimes
like a
you would
physical
even
mailing
actually
list?
physically mail things in the mail, and people would get a card announcing your show. And then it progressed to, where I remember when MySpace came out, and I was so angry because I was already putting so much time into maintaining and developing my own personal website for the band. Why do I have to have this other one now too? And then, Facebook and Instagram and everything. And now I understand managing social media, managing all of these accounts. And I didn't see the value in that when it all happened at all. But, obviously I do now. And it's the interactiveness that's the difference from the before and the now.
So on the flip side, we talked a little bit then about how it's helped you to organize in that way. Has social media hurt you in any way I feel like, did someone hurt you? Like in what ways would you say that social media might be negative? Are there any negative impacts on you as an artist or a musician with social media being so prevalent?
I don't know if they're specific to music. I mean, I have moments, especially this year in the pandemic, because I live alone and my boyfriend lives in Northern Ireland. And so it's been quite an isolated little time. And there are times when I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking at Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter again. Like, what am I doing? Because does this make me feel good? So as we talked about at the beginning, sometimes yes. Sometimes there's awesome stuff. Like, there's something really interesting or something really like that makes you think or reflect in a great way. And then there's like a bunch of things that maybe don't make your day better. So on a personal level, I do think that I have lost some time to social media that I would maybe like to get back, maybe would have liked to have spent in a different way. Show attendance is like not amazing these days. But is it social media? Is it Netflix? Is it Spotify? I don't know. And then maybe it will be. Like, when this is over and then we appreciate that we can go somewhere in person, maybe we'll want to again.
Right.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
Okay, that's a good self-reflection. So let's dive into the pandemic a little bit more. And I want to talk about it from a psychological perspective as an artist and a musician who's so used to having these in-person performances where, we're feeding off the energy of other people in a shared space. What's been the psychological impact of the pandemic on you, on artists and musicians? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Obviously, it has felt isolating when we were social isolating, right? I remember South by Southwest got canceled, and I thought, okay, this is a lot more serious. Like, our city makes, I think, like $350 million off of that event, like tourists. And when our mayor canceled that, I was like, oh, this is something real is happening. Like that was when I sat up and paid attention and was like, what is happening? And we had one more rehearsal after that. And we're outside in a park, and we stayed like 10 feet away. And I just felt sick to my stomach even doing that. And I was like, we can't do this. And Minor Mishap and I didn't see each other for more than a year.
Wow.
Because we're just too large of a group. We had nurses who were on the front lines, and then people who are immunocompromised. Like, you can't mess around about it. Also, just if you made your bandmates sick, like, that would feel terrible. So we just didn't do it. And we eventually started doing some stuff over Zoom. You know, as we all know, it's worth something. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not the same thing. And you can't play music over Zoom because there's a lag. It can only go one way. So we haven't been able to play music together. Just recently, we did start having rehearsals again for people who are fully vaccinated in the band. So it's most of the band, you know, as people reach vaccination status, we're hanging out and playing again out in the park, pretty far away from each other, you know, trying to be safe even with the vaccine. But however, on a positive side, the pandemic has meant that I needed to learn how to record myself. I needed to learn a lot more. Like, I knew how to make a demo, but I hadn't really gotten into Logic and how to do this stuff. And I'm currently really interested in music that is mostly me layering myself and layering synths and doing a bunch of harmony vocals and all that kind of stuff. So the music that I've written this year has been largely that, and it's been awesome. And I used to always, I think I was a little bit more limited in my choices because they were all real people playing real instruments, which is still kind of the holy grail. Like, it's super awesome and sacred, that interaction. But in the absence of that, there is actually a lot that you can do that's very interesting. And some in January, some friends and I started a group we're calling Production Club, where we study an iconic album from someone who's really outside of our own normal genre. That's kind of the key, because if you really love someone, you've already studied them, whether or not you think you have. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you probably have already incorporated a ton of things that they've done into your sound. So, like, really, really different things. We started with Taylor Swift because none of us do pop music at all. Mm-hmm. And we did, and then we switched to Joni Mitchell, which is like, you know, hard the other way. And then we did like Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life, and just different things. So we study the album, we try to write a song in that style, and we try to produce it in that style.
Wow.
So it's like you're learning all these different levels of stuff. And then so one of our members is in France, 2 are in Canada, and then I guess 3 of us are in Austin. So it's pretty cool. Like, that's a thing that we never would have done because we wouldn't have remembered, oh, let's loop Jeff in. You know, he moved to France, but we can just loop him in. It's the same. So it's really cool. And we've all just been doing that now for like 5 months. Yeah.
Because one of my next questions, I feel like that answers a lot of it too, is, you know, how did you lean on technology during this time to help you stay connected? And I mean, like you said, you never would have done that before. You probably wouldn't have even had the time before to like have a group of people to research an album and write for in a specific style that way with that specific group of people. That never would have come to pass if it wasn't for you not being able to, you know, practice in person with Minor Mishap or be touring or.
Yeah, definitely. We're all in non-pandemic times. We're all way too busy to work on something like that. Mm-hmm. So.
Did you find the new music that you have been putting out for your new Datri Bean album, was it influenced by some of that research that you did with your group?
Well, so the new album that's coming out was actually recorded right at the end of December in 2019. So the one that's finished is pre-pandemic, but the work that I'm doing right now, some of those songs, like the Joni Mitchell song, just feels like a me song. Some of them are not something that I would put in the public eye, because I'm just like, I'm trying to write a Stevie Wonder song. Like, I can't do that. Like, he's a genius. You know what I mean? Like, Stevie Wonder is a phenomenal genius. So it's not that you really think you can achieve it. It's that it's worth studying and seeing what goes on. Thanks.
See, half the reason I ask is because I'm ready to start hearing some of the stuff that you did during pandemic, where you're layering your own, vocals and oh man, I would love to hear what came out of that. And so I got to wait even longer for that, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I can probably send you guys a link, but yeah, before it's like really out. Also, because like some of the things sound cheesy still, right? Like I'm not a drummer. Well, I can do hand percussion, but I'm not like a kit drummer. So I just used like robot in a box drums. That doesn't sound nice. Like, it's enough when there's a pandemic, you don't complain about it, but then later you want like a real person to.
That makes sense. To
wail on the drums. So before I really were to release those things, I think there would be some edits.
I just don't have you have more patience than me, right? I probably do not have in any way the appreciation for the amount of iteration that goes into a musician's career, living in the social media field where we're putting out micro pieces of content constantly. I have no patience for drafts, like show me now.
That's why Lacey and I get along so well, because I'm the same way too. I'm like, this thing that I just did is the best thing ever, and it's going out now.
And I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
I understand that. They say that for a songwriter, the last thing you wrote is always your favorite. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to go into the last question, which I feel like you've covered some already. And so I'll try to see if I can find an angle that's a little bit different. Social media for good. It's so important for us to be thinking about how we're building community, how we're connecting with other people, what kind of content we're putting out, what kind of content we're taking in. But I really like to dive a little bit deeper with people and just talk about their own personal relationship to social media. So, when you talked already about the idea that, am I spending more time on here than I really should be? How many times today did I open XYZ app? So if you had to kind of describe your personal relationship with social media, how would you describe it at this point? Are you healthy? Are y'all getting along okay?
I think I'm pretty healthy, yeah. Like I said, I do have moments where I'm like, why am I looking at this again? It's funny that you said something about like social media for good, or what are you putting out there and what are you taking in? Because I think that's important creatively in music. Like, that's really important to me. I really do think that the energy and the mindset that you put into a piece of art translates to the people who consume that art. And so anything that I put out, I want it to have like a positive effect. That does not mean that it's all happy. Chad can tell you that I write plenty of sad songs. It's not about editing. Like, it's not that you can't allow a broad range of emotions, but I do like to think about, what is this doing? And then I do the same thing, honestly, on social media. Like, I have moments where I want to, maybe we feel frustrated about what's going on, and I want to post something, and I think about, how can I phrase this? How would, like, what impact will this have? Like if I share this thing that's shocking and horrifying and makes you think that people are shit, is that really gonna why am I doing that? So if we can stop that person who's doing the horrifying thing, maybe there is a reason to share it, right? Like, we've had a year of, obviously, like, something huge, like a video of someone being murdered by a cop, that has huge effects, or reporters working on things. But if it's something that is just like an isolated person being really crappy, I don't know if it's that.
Like the videos of Amazon delivery people throwing your packages up. You know, do we have to be sharing
whatever.
those?
Yeah, it's like, is this really going to help? Yeah, it's funny because the one thing that just happened to happen. That's not a good phrasing. I qualify as a 1B person in the Texas vaccine laws. So I have like a health condition that makes me qualify a little bit earlier than the general population. I happened to get an appointment. It was mostly luck, but it was also sort of difficult. Like I had to click, like on our city's website, you had to click next like 300 times or something. And because I had navigated this thing and I thought there are 0 80-year-olds who can do this because the technology, like it makes sense that it's online. It makes sense. It needs to be online. We're trying to do 350 million people at once. You need to be using computers. On the other hand, at that time, we were trying to get the elderly vaccinated, but everything was online. And if you weren't tech savvy, you couldn't even navigate, the public health website to get an appointment. So I started posting on social media like, hey, this is who qualifies right now. This is how you make this appointment. These are the weird bugs on the city's website, and this is how you're going to navigate them. And then I got connected to people called the Austin Vaccine Angels who were making appointments for the elderly or for people who had like a language barrier, like if you don't really speak English. Things are mostly available in Spanish, but it still is a bit easier if you are a fluent English speaker. So we were making appointments for people, and then just in my friend group, I kind of became the person that everyone would message, like, how do I get this? Like, and then, 16-year-olds can get Pfizer. Okay, 12-year-olds can get Pfizer. Like, who has Pfizer? So a lot of my posts lately have been that, which is probably not super interesting for anybody who's already vaccinated, but for anybody who's looking for information, I'm trying to do that. Yeah, so you can use it for good.
It is.
That's exactly what we're talking about, using the community to help the community.
What platforms do you like to be on most? Facebook, Instagram? You gone into TikTok much at all? Where are you living on social media right now?
I'm not on the TikTok yet. I'm saying the TikTok to make sure that you know that I'm old. I am on the Facebook. And I use the tweeter sometimes. No, actually, it's funny. So on Twitter, I unfollowed almost everyone that I actually know in real life. And I followed a bunch of and I did this actually before the pandemic, but then I increased it. I followed a bunch of scientists that were doing interesting work. So that if I go on Twitter, it's to learn about that. Then during the election, I got kind of a bunch of political follows, which are a little stressful now, but and then obviously I followed a bunch of epidemiologists after that. So Twitter is mostly not people that I know in real life, and are like content makers of and then Facebook is people that I know in real life, and then I almost never look at Instagram. I just forget about it.
Yeah, me too. Just kidding. When I open it 3 times just while I'm sitting on the toilet, don't worry about it. I have problems. Why do you think we do social media for good? It's for me. I'm the problem.
Yeah, IG is Lacey's bread and butter.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Datri, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so grateful, and I'm so excited I'm going to go look up the video. What's the name of the song one more time?
Tracksuit.
Tracksuit. And does it have a special name since it's the international version? Did you say that there's a
worldwide tracksuit?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really excited to go look that up and maybe listen to it on my drive today. That'll be really fun.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Those of you who are listening or watching, you're welcome for bringing on Datri. I hope that you look around for her, not on Instagram. She's not going to find you back. Not on Twitter. She's only following scientists there. So look for her on Facebook, and especially probably look at the YouTube channels as well. Look up Minor Mishap. Look for her in Nancy and Beth. and we'll send some love your way. Okay, Datri?
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, thank you all so much. We will talk to you soon. Keep learning. Bye.
Bye.
This Spry Space podcast was produced by Spry Social Media Marketing, Digital Marketing Agility. Edited by Chad Hinman and executive produced by Lacey Fott.